Mention the number 666, and minds immediately go to dark alleys and dystopian futures. It is perhaps the most infamous number in human history, inspiring centuries of apocalyptic predictions and cultural anxiety. For decades, popular speculation has tied this concept to emerging technologies. People scan the headlines for literal stamps on the right hand or forehead, fearing barcode tattoos, implanted RFID microchips, or global digital tracking systems. These technological theories often look past the actual language of the Book of Revelation. The prophecies written on Patmos 2 millennia ago describe a conflict that centers on something other than silicon chips or satellite surveillance. Looking closer at the text, the focus is not on biological modification, but on human allegiance. According to the visions in Revelation, it is a mandated requirement that forces humanity to choose who they obey. Revelation 13 describes two powerful beasts enforcing a system of false worship. The central crisis focuses entirely on religious authority, compelling the world to bow to a specific spiritual dictate. The dividing line is drawn between those who keep the original commandments of God and those who submit to a tradition mandated by human authority. Moving past the science fiction reveals a different kind of threat, a documented historical campaign to alter divine law and capture the loyalty of the human soul. The biblical prophets viewed history in sweeping epochs, tracing a line of succession through the rise and fall of empires. Within this timeline, ancient Rome's influence evolves, eventually giving way to a new type of authority that combined religious and civil power. This chart mapping the Ten Commandments illustrates a specific warning from the book of Daniel. The prophet described a power that would deliberately intend to alter both times and law. Out of the 10 Commandments, only the fourth deals with time. History records a shift that matches this description. Over a period of centuries, the institutional church transferred the solemnity of the biblical Sabbath to Sunday, establishing a new day of rest that was not found in the original text. John's vision in Revelation 13 picks up this exact thread. The first beast rising from the sea shares the same characteristics as Daniel's prophecy, using its authority to enforce a specific system of worship. This understanding relies on the sola scriptura principle. It aligns with the historic Protestant Reformation, which prioritized the biblical text over church traditions that lacked scriptural support. But Revelation introduces a second beast, rising from the earth. This entity represents a later power that eventually cooperates with the first, working to enforce the same day of worship globally. This alliance brings us back to the number 666. Some scholars calculated from the papal title Vicarius Filii Dei, while others view the 666 as a symbol of humanity in total rebellion against God. Regardless of the specific calculation, the historical evidence is consistent. It points toward a calculated, systemic effort to override the explicit law of time found in the Ten Commandments. By the mid-19th century, a new religious movement emerged in America. Focused deeply on the books of Daniel and Revelation, they sought to understand how these ancient timelines applied to the modern era. Among them was Ellen G. White. Recognized as a prophetic messenger, her writings offered a clarifying perspective on the final events described in Scripture. In 1850, she recorded a startling prediction. She wrote that historically opposed religious groups, Catholics and Protestants, would eventually find common ground to enforce Sunday worship. These events were described as inevitable. In the apocalyptic context, these prophecies are unconditional, outlining a resolution to a cosmic conflict that cannot be diverted by human effort. At the time she wrote this, the idea seemed improbable. 19th century Protestants and Catholics were locked in deep, often hostile political and social animosity, making any future cooperation appear impossible. Yet her writings specified the mechanism. This alliance would use civil laws and public authority to mandate rest on Sunday, legally suppressing those who remained faithful to the seventh-day Sabbath. In these 19th century pages, she detailed a formation of global alliances that remained dormant for generations, events that are only now beginning to take a recognizable shape. In the present day, these specific religious and political alignments are finding new momentum. Modern legislative bodies are now debating measures to synchronize free time across entire nations. Organizations like the European Sunday Alliance are actively lobbying lawmakers for stricter Sunday regulations, framing a common day of rest as a societal and social necessity. This aligns with official positions within the Catholic Church. In the letter Dies Domini, Pope John Paul II stated that Christians should strive to ensure that civil legislation respects the duty to keep Sunday holy. More recently, these efforts have been linked to the ecological crisis. Documents like Laudato Si connect the concept of a universal day of rest to environmental restoration, framing it as an urgent global requirement. Identifying these structural trends is not an attack on individuals. This interpretation recognizes that God has faithful, conscientious believers in every denomination who are living according to the light they have. But the evidence suggests a coming legal tipping point. The world is being positioned to choose between the original seventh-day Sabbath of the Creator and a day of rest instituted and enforced by human authority. As these global movements solidify, the focus shifts away from technological tracking and toward spiritual allegiance. The final test is a personal decision about where an individual places their ultimate loyalty.